But where I came to know him was to try to find somebody who could help me raise small contributions. When I announced for president in 1972, I knew we weren't going to get the big money. I knew that I was a junior senator from South Dakota. I knew that other contenders for the nomination that year were very formidable. Hubert Humphrey, my lifetime friend, Ed Muskie, another friend, Scoop Jackson. All these men are deceased, but when they were alive, they made a difference for the good in the United States Senate and in the politics of the country. So I wanted to know if I'm going to take on people like that. The governor of North Carolina was another one, later became the president of Duke University. And there were 15 of them that were running for president. Some of them dropped out rather soon. My friend Birch Bayh, Fred Harris of Oklahoma, a number of others that dropped out rather soon. But how do you deal with a situation like that? I thought if we could find a way of reaching out by mail to these folks, we might be able to finance that campaign, at the same time recruit grassroots workers. And Morris is the one that made that so effective. I can tell you flat out, I would not have won the nomination in '72 had it not been for Morris Dees and his fundraising efforts. So I'm very grateful to you, Morris, for all of that. When he first showed me the letter that he wanted to go out about 10 days ahead of my announcement for the presidency, I said, that won't work. It was 6 pages long. I said, nobody's going to read a 6-page letter from a politician who's trying to get their money. And I don't think that'll work. And to buttress my case, I sent a copy of it to Ken Galbraith and to Dick Wade of the University of Chicago. They looked at it, they agreed with me, and they reduced the letter to 1 page. So, and then I asked Morris to come to Washington to talk about this. How could we expect this to work? And we didn't dare waste any money because we didn't have much to waste. He waited about 10 days to come to Washington because he wanted to do something. He sent that 6-page letter out to 250,000 people. And he wanted to wait until he had some results, and then he was going to come into Washington and say, look here, look here, look here. That's exactly what he did. I didn't know that the 250,000 letters that he had sent out went out in the same form as my original read that he had written with the help of a guy by the name of Tom from New York. Anyway, when he came in to see me that day, he thought he was going to get chewed out for sending that unauthorized 6-page letter. But before he could say anything, he said he was sitting there in my office, and I didn't say anything at first. And he said what seemed like an eternity to him. I just sat there looking at him. Boy, he's going to give it to me. Instead of that, what I did was to read a letter that came to me directly from that fundraising appeal. It was from a woman whose son had been killed in Vietnam. And she sent me a letter, and this is what she said. I have received $10,000 from the federal government the life insurance on my son who was killed in Vietnam. And I want you to have that $10,000 check in your campaign so that it'll help in a small way end this dreadful war in Vietnam. When I saw that letter, first of all, I wept. I have no hesitance in telling you. I weep just thinking about Vietnam. I can't walk by that black marble wall out here with those 58,000 names. A sergeant from Oklahoma, a buck private in Pennsylvania, all those young names. I cannot do that without breaking down. I haven't been able to do it yet, and because we all know now that that war was such a dreadful, costly blunder. I don't know how many of us know that we killed 2 million Vietnamese. They didn't have insurance policies on their boys. So now when you go to Vietnam, as Americans, we're warmly received. They tell us how much they've always admired the American people. Anyway, that one letter, I never again questioned Morris on anything. So Morris, I'm very proud to present.
I love what you said. These people love it.
For you to get more.
Yeah, what can we do?
Will you give us some more?
Did I quote that letter right?
Thank you very much for Senator McGovern for those kind words. I don't think I could say much to top them. I want to thank all of you for giving me this great award, and my wife Susan over here, Susan Starr, for being with me for so long. It was a great pleasure to be the National Finance Director for Senator McGovern, and it led me to meet a lot of very special people, especially a guy like myself from a small cotton farm down in Montgomery County, Alabama. I later met Jimmy Carter, my neighbor, was his National Finance Director, and he ran for president. And I can go on with the great people that I met, but President Carter and Senator McGovern had a way of getting me to volunteer. And I didn't realize that you could get paid for this. And it's been I met Roger Craver though, and Roger and I for at least 20 years or more teamed up and used our direct mail skills that I had created in my business. I started in college selling birthday cakes to parents whose students was at the University of Alabama. I got a PhD in direct mail from that little campaign, and we use those tactics in McGovern's campaign and all the rest of them. And for you experts in copy and direct mail, I just want to read one short thing to you here. I did, in fact, send that letter out without approval from Senator McGovern. I didn't work for him. He didn't pay me anything. And I knew that little one-page letter with the red and white buntings was not going to work. And I just used the United States Senate stationery. They kind of can't do that again. And a couple of those letters came back, you know, Nixie's bad addresses, and they got him, and he got that thing, and oh boy, he said, I got to see you in Washington. His secretary said he is not happy. Well, somebody else got that letter too, and it was an executive at an ad agency in New York City. And this is what this person wrote to Senator McGovern. Dear Senator McGovern, I just received a 6-page letter from you over your signature which finally asked for funds. Let me hasten to declare that I admire you enormously. And yet that form letter is so amateurish, so bald, so badly conceived, and so incompetent that it nearly turned me off entirely. I've shown it to some of my younger friends, and they too think it is a bomb of an appeal. An appeal for funds requires great expertise, particularly when done through the mail, and I'm direct mail expert, and you need my help. I also have met some wonderful people, Ray Struthers, I was Gary Hart's finance director. He ran for president the first time too, and I know so many of you on both sides of the fence, and I'm a lawyer, I'm a trial lawyer, essentially. And we lawyers fight each other in court, and then after court we meet, we take vacations together, we drink together, we have fun together. Well, I've met people on both sides of the aisle here, and I think one of my dearest friends is Richard Viguerie. He and I are probably several miles apart politically. But after being Senator McGovern's national finance director, I got a call from my good friend George Wallace. I grew up with him, know him well. I was his campaign manager when he ran for governor the first time for young people in 1958, but naturally we had the endorsement of the NAACP and we got beat. He changed. I hope I stayed the same. But he called me and he said, Morris, I hear you are doing fundraising in direct mail. I've been reading about this McGovern campaign, and there was a law passed that allowed you to raise money in matching contributions in 1976. He said, would you handle my fundraising? And I said, well, George, talking to he and his brother, I said, George, politically, you know, I love you and all that, but we just aren't on the same side of the political fence. He said, but I'll give you $1 million if you can raise the $12.5 million. You've got $1 million if you can raise it, and I guarantee we can raise it. I said, but I know a person that I can't do it, George, but I have a friend that might help you. So I called Dick up. I said, Dick, I got somebody down in Alabama, and I explained the whole thing. And I said, Richard, would you take this? And he says, I can't do that. I said, why? He said, George Wallace is too liberal for me. Well, he was absolutely right. George Wallace is a populist, and he finally got back to his base. But Dick did come down and raise the money, and he got the $1 million, I guess. I didn't get a referral fee. But I just want to say that I love all of you, and I know we've taken a lot of time with this part of the program. I know you got to move it on, but I do appreciate this honor. I'll take this little award back to the Southern Poverty Law Center and put it up there to let them know that I'm more than just a civil rights lawyer. Thank you.
Congratulations, Morris.